In order to subscribe for my channel, please click here or click here. Please like, share, and comments on my videos and channel.
Hey guys, this is Gaurav. Welcome to SaaS with ServiceNow. This is our new training for ServiceNow Automated Test Framework. This course has been created with the version New York of ServiceNow instance. About myself, my name is Gaurav Tripathi. I have 10 plus years of experience in IT, which includes experience in ServiceNow, architect solutions, and project delivery. I love to travel and learn new things. What this course is about. This course is about ServiceNow Automated Test Framework. You will be able to learn and perform testing with ATF for different use cases. You'll be able to know features and benefits of Automated Test Framework. Who should do this course? And that's a really important question. Now, all the ServiceNow administrators and developers, ServiceNow testers who want to do testing in ServiceNow, IT professionals who have 6 months of experience in ServiceNow, and that's a basic need that you should be aware of basic platform features in ServiceNow. So those people can definitely do this training. Introduction of ATF. Before I start this video and this session, let me tell you the full form first. That is Automated Test Framework, which will definitely give you some kind of hint in your mind that what exactly this ATF is. So as I mentioned, ATF is an application to support automation testing. It's a framework to perform testing in ServiceNow, and that is provided by ServiceNow in ServiceNow. It supports creation of test cases to make sure instance works after any change. And that's a really important point. That ServiceNow came up with this application automated test framework. They thought that there should be something in the instance so that developers and testers can test the functionalities directly in ServiceNow rather than looking for some third-party tools to test ServiceNow. And that's the reason ServiceNow came up with this automated test framework. It helps to support platform upgrade. And that is the major point that wherever you will search for automated test framework, you will definitely come to know that this is really useful for your platform upgrade. And the reason behind it is when ServiceNow come up with different versions, it might happen that it can break your system or some of your customization. In that case, it's better to test something before you upgrade your production environment. And that's how ATF will be really helpful for you so that you can create different test cases, and you can automate them. And your ATF tool will automatically test those scenarios, and before upgrade, you'll be able to know what all things are failing, what all things are passing. In that case, you can plan your upgrade properly and without impacting your end users. And as you can see, I have mentioned the application, that is the automated test framework. It's in ServiceNow. If you will get a personal developer instance, it will be enabled automatically. And it is accessible to the developers and admins. It definitely has some roles, and we will talk about it. Benefits of ATF. There are a lot of different benefits of ATF. The core benefits which I have mentioned right here is replace manual testing with automation. And I think that's a really great feature and opportunity for you so that you can move from your manual testing to automation. So whatever testing your team was doing or is still doing manually, you can automate them. And that's a really great advantage. The another benefit we have is design once and reuse them. In ATF, you can just write the test cases, test steps, and you can reuse them for future testing. Rollback of record inserted, and that's a really solid feature of ATF. That means if you are creating a record in ATF, in ServiceNow with the help of ATF, in that case, that particular record can be rolled back. That means you won't find that record again once testing is completed. So it's like ServiceNow creates a record, does some testing, and just roll back the record. And then tests can be rescheduled. That means you can run schedulers for your test cases. So if you want to run every weekend, every Sunday, you want to run some test, you can also do that. And the best part we have is test suites. That means you can create different test suites for your different tests you have created for your system. And that's a really good feature. That means you can put different tests in one bucket, and that one bucket would be test suite. And you can also run that test suite, which will also give you the result whether the whole suite got passed or failed. You can definitely check the granular level details of the passing and failing things. ATF Components. Now, before we go in details, it's really important to know that what are the different components you have in ATF, which basically support the whole application and which are being used to accomplish the testing, and that is automation testing. And those components are test. Now, test is anything which can be tested, that's kind of your test case, that is something you create a test. So you have some specific steps for your maybe form testing, email testing, record testing. Those steps basically comprises of in the test basically, and that's called a test. So you can create different tests, and that test will have different test steps. Then you have test suite. Now, as I mentioned earlier, test suite is like a bucket. It's a bucket where you will have different tests. It's kind of a collection of tests that run in a specific order. And that's what you have, test suite. And you can also run them. Then we have quick start test. Now, quick start test is a ServiceNow provided test or test suite installed with the demo data of an application. That means if you have any kind of application installed, it can be any, maybe vulnerability response, maybe change management, incident management. ServiceNow came up with these quick start tests so that whatever out of the box basic forms are there, at least ServiceNow will create them for you automatically in the baseline. So you don't have to create them. You can just take an example. It will be like a template for you. You can create them on the basis of those tests. Then we have test steps. Now these are really important because when you will have different test steps, then you will have a test. So in that case, if you have to do a form testing, in that case, you click a button, you put some mandatory things, all those things will be like the steps in a test. Then we have step configuration. Step configurations are the actions which you perform during automation testing. And that's something will be run by your ATF application. So they are like the actions, for example, click on a button, open a form, submit the form, submit the record. These are like step configurations. ServiceNow definitely provides you out of the box baseline step configuration. However, you still have that opportunity that you can still create these kind of configuration yourself. And that is what ATF provides. Input and output. Now these are step variable. That's another component. Step variable basically stores the specific input and output values. So what kind of input you want from the customer or from the user who is creating the test, and what kind of output you're looking for. And that is something, the variables, and those step variables are in input and output. Another component we have is test result. That means whatever test you are running, what kind of result you are going to get. That is the test result. There is also a specific table for it. And that table is sys underscore ATF underscore test underscore result. That's a table. You will definitely talk about different tables involved in ATF. Definitely, that's one of the section we have. And that is test result. Next we have a step result. A step result is something that in a test you have multiple steps. Now what kind of result you are getting for each step, that is also important to know. And that's called step result. For every step, whatever functionality, whatever testing you're doing for each step, that's something you want to know, that what was the output, what was the result when that particular step ran during the testing. And the last not the least is assert type, and that's the assert. It's kind of a condition that should be met for a test to pass. And that's kind of assert you should have there. So that's kind of a component that whatever action you are taking, you have to make sure that yes, you are getting the right output. And that is something assert type field. So you specify the condition for a test to pass. So these are the components of ATF. When all these components work together, in that case, you will have better automation testing. The important point here is not every step configuration on the test type will have this assert. It depends the kind of testing you are doing. So assert type is kind of a field which should be available in your different step configurations, or whatever testing you're doing, you might find, and we will see in our practical sessions. Roles. Let's talk about what are the different roles involved in automated test framework. The first role we have is administrator. So if you are an administrator or if you are a ServiceNow developer, this role will definitely be there. Next is ATF test admin. Now this is specific to ATF application. Now as administrator role is like a generic role which is for every admin, but ATF test admin is specifically for ATF application, and you can assign to the users as per the access you want to give to that user. And another role we have is ATF test designer. So there are basically two kind of roles we have in ATF. One is ATF test admin. Another one is ATF test designer. Now ATF test admin can create and edit ATF framework properties. That means he is kind of an admin, complete admin, end-to-end admin for that application. Like as an administrator, you have full control of your ServiceNow instance. Similarly, this person will have full control of ATF application. An ATF test designer, now that person, if you will assign that role to a person, that means that person will be able to view and create tests, create test steps. Those kind of things can be done by ATF test designer. So it totally depends. It's up to you that what kind of a role you want to give to your users. Even they are tester, even they are BA, even they are developers, even they are administrators. It totally depends as per the role I mentioned. I think ATF test admin would be better so that he will have complete control. ATF Test Designer, as I mentioned, they can definitely create some test, delete test steps, view some configuration, but they will not have complete control of the application. Or mostly we have seen that people also just manage with the administrator role as well. But if I talk about the tester, if you don't want to give admin role to the testers, in that case, you can definitely assign this ATF test admin role to those testers. What can we test with ATF? Now, this is the most important question, because if you will start ATF, and if you are already working with an existing framework, maybe a third-party framework, it's really important to know that what ATF can test. You definitely need to know the scope of ATF, what exactly it can test. And then only you can decide whether you have to switch to ATF or not. My recommendation will definitely be that you should switch to ATF because it has really good features. But let's see what exactly we can test with the ATF. And we will talk about definitely in more details further. Service catalog in service portal. That means all the service catalog forms which are in service portal, you can definitely test it with ATF. Application navigator. And this is also really good functionality that you can test application navigation as well. For example, you want to see some of the modules, you want to test whether that module is visible for that particular user. In that case, you can use this functionality. So we can test application navigation, visibility of the modules, and visibility of the applications. Custom UI. If you have created different UIs, maybe you have created a UI page where you have created some buttons, maybe a pop-up where you have cancel button, submit button, those kind of things. Those are custom pages, which is not out of the box. In that case, ServiceNow also has created a functionality that is custom UI, so you can test them as well. Form. This is the basic testing. So as you have different native forms in ServiceNow for incident, change, problem, and for some other forms as well. In that case, if you want to test it, like whether fields are mandatory, you want to set some fields, you want to see some buttons, whether those buttons are available or not, you want to click some button, all those things can be done with the help of form testing. So that means that is also possible. You can definitely test form as well with ATF. Then we have service catalog. Now, as you know, service catalog is a different section in ServiceNow where you can develop different forms. Now, in that case, if you want to do testing, you can definitely do the testing with the help of ATF for service catalog as well. Forms in service portal. So whatever forms you have added in service portal, maybe it's like an incident form, change form, or any other form, you can also test that directly if that form is on portal. Now you need to understand that the form which we have in native UI, it's different, and the form we have in service portal, it's totally different. So that's the reason both the testing are segregated. It can't be same because technology is different. Here we have complete AngularJS and all those stuff, but here, and that's the reason in native UI, it's definitely a different UI they have used. Then we have REST. That means integration. So you can definitely perform testing with ATF for your REST inbound request and response. So if any other application is hitting your instance and you have given the access to get the details from your instance, and they are maybe inserting data, maybe they are pulling up the data, all those tests can be performed with the help of ATF for REST. That means integration testing can also happen. That is also only for inbound testing. There is another thing which I want to tell you, that SOAP testing. That ServiceNow is not giving an opportunity to test SOAP web service calls. Now for that, what you can do, you can definitely develop your own SOAP custom step configuration and you can test it. Then we have last server. So you can definitely do server testing. That means whatever code you're writing, you can definitely do some unit testing. So where you're writing the JavaScript code, the ServiceNow already providing, and they have already integrated ATF with Jasmine test framework. That's already there. So whatever service testing you want to do, you can definitely do that, like testing business rules, testing script includes, and any other script. ATF application and modules. Let's talk about ATF application and its different modules. So I will go to my personal developer instance. This is my personal developer instance, and you can see I have this automated test framework. What I will do, I will zoom my screen a little bit bigger so that you can read properly. So I have this automated test framework. I will start with tests. That's the first module we have under ATF application. So here we have different tests as of now in this instance. This is totally out of the box. So total we have 91 tests as of now. You will also find the quick start pack. If you remember, we talked about quick start tests. That's something you can also find here. Those are out of the box provided so that you can see those templates and create your own. So whatever test you will create, you have to create it from here. The next module we have is suites. So as I mentioned, you can definitely create different suites as well, and you can put different tests from here to your suites as well. Then we have test results. Here, whatever test you will create, and then you will run it. So whatever the result would be, you'll be able to see in this particular list. Then we have parameterized test results. So ServiceNow recently came up with a really good functionality, that is parameterized test results. As of now, I'm just showing you the module, so we will not talk about it. We will talk about it later. However, this module will show you all the test results for your parameterized testing if you have added in your test. Then we have suite results. Now, suite results are something similarly like you have in test result, and you run the test, you get the result, you can see in test results. Now, similarly, you can also create test suite results as well. That means you run the test suite and you will get the results in this particular list. Then we have schedules. So if you want to schedule a test, you can just do it directly from this particular view. Then we have manual page inspector. Now this will take you to the different page. As you can see, it has changed now. It's kind of a new UI. As you remember, we learned about custom UI. That is something you can test right from here. So if you have created a UI page, or you have created a service portal page and you want to test it, in that case, you can definitely utilize manual page inspector, and you can pull different elements used in that page. For example, clicking a button, fetching the value, those kind of things you can definitely find with the help of this manual page inspector. Then we have a section called run. Now this section is basically related to all the test running. And if I just do like this, it has all data related to test running. So for example, if I click on client test runner, it's kind of a runner where the whole testing will be displayed, live testing. So for example, you have different steps. You will see in this window that how that test is running. Clicking a button, pushing the value, fetching the value, reload the form, all those things you will see live in this section. Then we have scheduled client test runner. This is the scheduled one. So if you have scheduled any test and you want to open it at that particular time, you will see what things are running. They have separated both the sections. Then we have active manual test runners. So any testing is running right now or currently, that will be shown here. All the tests which are basically active right now. Then we have active scheduled test runners. So whatever you have scheduled, if they are active, that's something you can see in this particular module. Then we have waiting running test runs. So let's take an example that you are creating two different tests and now you are running at the same time. In that case, whatever tests which are waiting and running, because you can't run two tests at the same time. That is something I would say it's kind of I would think it's not as per the instance as per the customer experience. I would say it's not that much good, but maybe there's a basic reason behind it. But that's a loophole that if you have logged in from your instance, and in this instance I'm a tester, only I can run it. If somebody else will run their test in the same module or in the same instance, that will be parked and it will be added in the queue. And that's how you can see here all the tests, whether they are running or waiting. Then we have suite runs. That means all the test suites running, you will see here. Whether they are waiting, they are running. Basically, you can see the section is still the same. It says test suite results and test results. So in results, you will be able to know, okay, what things are running, what things are not running. Then we have whitelisted client errors. You can definitely get a lot of client errors while performing testing in ATF. And I'm sure you will get it. In that case, it might happen that there are some unnecessarily errors which you think that shouldn't come. In that case, you can whitelist those errors. So while running the ATF test, even system will find that error. It will skip it. It will still continue and pass your test if other conditions are being met. Then we have reported client errors. So if you have different client errors, that's something you can see in this particular list. Then when exactly it was recorded, so that means when you will run a test and it found some error, that's something you can capture here. So whatever client errors you are getting, you can see from this particular module. Then we have administration. Now, as I mentioned, if you are an admin, you can definitely see and do a lot of things with that particular role. So even with the ATF test admin role. So here we have properties. In this module, this will show you different properties for ATF. Then we have step configurations. If you remember, we learned about this as well, that you have different configurations, like you can see impersonate. So you do impersonation, like if I click here and impersonation, now ATF can impersonate users itself by using this configuration. Similarly, we have different step configurations like opening a form, opening a record producer, setting some values, see assert. Now these are the things, these are step configurations, and the baseline configuration we have is 84. So you have around 84 step configurations. Those are out of the box baseline. Now if you want to create any new step configurations, you can also do it right from here. Then we have test templates. Now you can also create different test templates. Like for example, you can see this is the test template. It's a default for new form. That means whenever you will create a new test, and if you want to add any template, you can do it. For example, if you have a testing, now every testing will definitely have an impersonation. It has to open a new form. So all those things you can club it, and then you can utilize it in your testing. Then we have step configuration categories. Now this is really important, that what are the different categories you have for your step configuration, like application navigator, so that you can test application navigation, custom UI, form, reporting. You can also test reporting, responsive dashboards, REST server, service catalog in service portal, and then service portal. So whatever forms you have in service portal, you can also test that. Then we have table cleanup. So here you can definitely create some different rules for auto flushes. So whatever tests you create, you just want to remove them in particular time. That's something you can do right from here. And this functionality is basically auto flushes. And if I just click here, so you can see form is loaded and it says match field created on. So if you want to flush them, you can definitely do it. Flushes, that means they will not be there, you can't see those things. So it has taken like test result. And I'm pretty much sure that if you will create multiple tests, you don't want those test results to be there in the system. Maybe they were created 6 months back, because you don't need them, those results. You definitely need maybe recent 1 month results, but not more than that. It's up to you. However, that's a recommendation I can tell you. So you definitely need to have some kind of a deadline so that you remove those test results which are not needed anymore. And then you have all test runners. So whatever test runners you have, that's something you will see in this particular window, where you have a lot of other details, as you can see, like type, user, browser name, that on which browser it is running, browser version, OS name, OS version, status, and last check-in and status reason. These are the different modules. So this was the last module. So these are the different modules under the application you have automated test framework. Let's create a sample test and run that test in ServiceNow Personal Developer instance. This is my personal developer instance. In order to create a test, I will go to tests module. I will click on a new button because I need to create a new test. It says my new test. I will just give it a name as demo test SAS, or maybe let's put it in the beginning, SAS demo test. As of now, I'm not enabling the parameterized testing, and I'm just saving it. If you want to give a description, you can do that, but it's not mandatory. So I will just put it right here. I will click save. So I have these related lists, you can see that. Now what I will do, I will add some steps here. So I will click on add step. Here I will start with maybe create a user. Maybe I will create an ITIL user. I will click on next. And I will just wait for the form. Here I can create a user. Now what variables I need? I can put ATF ITIL, maybe ITIL. And then I want to add any role. Yes, and that will be ITIL. I will close this. Do I need to add to any group? I will not do anything, and I will just click on submit. So I have created it. Now this user will also be impersonated. Now I will go to next step. Here I will go to form, open a new form. So in that case, I will click on next. In order to select the incident form, I need to select that table. So I will select the table. So I have this incident form. View, it's up to you whether you want to open it in self-service view, maybe just normal default view. So as of now, I'm not putting anything. So it will open it in default view, or whatever view you have set in as a default. I will click on submit. And before I do, I will just open our incident form if we do have anything mandatory. So in that case, I will just open in a new tab. And if I see here, so caller is mandatory, short description is mandatory. I am closing this and I will add that. So I'm adding another step. So I will set field value. I can also test whether those two fields are mandatory or not. So in that case, what I can do field state validations. For example, if they are mandatory or not. So first let me check the validations. So in that case, so caller and short descriptions, basically they are mandatory. So I will select caller here in mandatory, and short description. I'll keep it, close it, and I will submit it. I will add another step, maybe set field values. In that case, I will click on next. So here I can set anything, maybe in short description. Basically they are mandatory. So I will put ATF test. Here I can select any user I want. So maybe able tutor, and I will submit it. So I have set the field values, everything, and then I can submit the form so that I can create that record. So I will select submit, next. It says form submitted to the server, form, no, I will just do the same thing, submit it. So as of now, you can see we have created these 5 steps: create a user, open a new form, field state validation, setting the field values, and submit that form. Let's see how exactly this ATF runs this test. So what I will do, as of now, you can see I'm not getting an option to test it. And the reason behind it, ATF, whenever you will enable ATF in your instance, it will automatically disable the testing, the running of testing. For that, you have to click on this property. And if you want to enable schedule testing, you can also enable it if you want. And then just save this. Once property is saved, you can see it is enabled now. I will go back to my test. I will select my test which I created, that is SAS demo test. I will click here. And then I will click on run test. So now you can see the button is visible. So I will click on run test. Now this will show you this pop-up. The test you have selected includes client-side steps. Choose a browser to run this test. So I will just click here, run test. Now you will see this test running. So this is the window. I will make it a small little bit so that you will see the whole test running. Now you can see the form is getting loaded. It will check for the mandatory fields. And at the top you can see the currently executing as ATF ITIL because it has already impersonated that particular user you have selected. You can see it also pushed able tutor. It also pushed short description. Now it is going to create the incident. So the testing is done. I don't have to do anything. It is done. How exactly I'm able to know? Because now it is not running anything on my screen. So what I can do, I can go back to my main page. Now you can see this pop up where whatever test was running, it will show you the whole steps, whether things are passing or failing. That's something you can see right here. You can also see the timing, the duration of for each step which is running in your ATF. So as of now you can see 1 second, 25 seconds succeeded. That means your test has passed without any issue. In this case it might fail as well. And I can just click on go to result. If you will go to result, you can definitely see how things have passed, test logs, there are different transactions there, how exactly it ran the whole test. That is something you can see in test results. So this was the sample test which we created and run the test, and you saw all the transactions, different steps we followed by creating a test in ServiceNow ATF. You will definitely see more details in later sections. So thanks for watching my video. Have a great day.